different results, then, well, Albert Einstein used the word, then you are an idiot. So I think this is the policy that they seem to be following, whether it is, in terms of raising the whole issue of Kashmir. They know that there are no takers. They know that the whole world is moved beyond it. The whole world wants this to be settled between India and Pakistan bilaterally. And we have told Pakistan very clearly that the only issue to be discussed between on Kashmir is the return of the illegally occupied
POK
to India. So,
yes.
And on terrorism, the whole world needs to come together to follow a zero policy on terrorism. And that is what the message should go loud and clear to Pakistan. It cannot use its position of a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council to keep raising these issues, because there are no takers for it.
And speaking of the Indus Waters Treaty, something that Pakistan's minister also raised at the UNSC, India has made it clear why it was put in abeyance, why it continues to be in abeyance. In fact, Pakistan also tried to go to the World Bank, which was a facilitator of this particular treaty, and they too paid no heed to these concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the managing director of World Bank, Mr. Ajay Banga, right then and there, he had said that the World Bank has nothing to do with it, and the World Bank will not get involved in this whole issue. So I think the basic fundamental premise of the treaty was that it was being done in an atmosphere of goodwill between the two countries. Now that goodwill has been totally vitiated by Pakistan by resorting to this terror attacks against India for the last several decades. And when that basic premise does not hold, then of course the structure that is being created on that paradigm, that of course also crumbles. So that is why, India is very well within its right to put this treaty in abeyance, as we have done.
Right. India has countered every single lie that has been peddled by Pakistan on multiple such global fora, and will continue to do so. But Ashok Sajjanal, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Shifting focus and talking about India's diplomacy, Prime Minister Modi is in the United Kingdom. He's embarked on this visit just a few hours ago. The visit to the United Kingdom is at the invitation of Prime Minister Keir Starmer, while the state visit to Maldives, which follows this visit to the United Kingdom, is at the invitation of President Muizu. The focus of the Prime Minister, as far as both these visits is concerned, will be to shore up trade and defence cooperation. The formalization of the landmark India-UK Free Trade Agreement is set to happen. That deal was finalized a couple of months ago. It is going to be signed by the two Prime Ministers tomorrow. In his departing statement before he left for the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Modi said that both India and UK share a comprehensive strategic partnership that has witnessed significant progress in the recent years. He added that his visit to Maldives is to strengthen cooperation for peace, prosperity, and more importantly, stability in the Indian Ocean region.
Conversation on the 6th of May between the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of the UK, where an announcement had been made that the two sides had concluded negotiations on a free trade agreement and other issues. Since then, the two sides have been in very close touch with each other, and we have continued to make the case for these fugitives to be rendered to India. Obviously, there is a legal process that such requests and such issues go through in the other country, and we continue to follow up very closely with our partners in the UK. The presence of Khalistani extremists and bodies close to these people is again something that we have brought to the attention of our partners in the UK. We will continue to do so.
As I've been saying, the free trade agreement is essentially the substantive negotiations finished on the 6th of May. The scrubbing work is underway. It would, of course, not be proper for me to speculate about when it will be signed. But the important point is the text has to be completely ready for it to be signed. And after that, of course, then we move to the ratification and implementation stage. But it's a good time for the relationship, the trade relationship in particular, and the extraordinary work done by the Commerce Ministry team and all of my colleagues here in the High Commission is a reason why we're in a great position to look at the future of the India-UK relationship.
Now, the free trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom is in focus during this visit of the Prime Minister. It is going to be signed by the two Prime Ministers tomorrow. The immediate impact of this trade deal could be a slashing of duties on British products that are imported into India. So what are these products which will see a major reduction in prices? Lower duties on whiskey, on cars, cosmetics, medical devices as well. That's something that is being looked at. As far as whiskey and gin is concerned, two kinds of spirits, tariffs likely to be halved from 150 to 75%. Whiskey and gin, there are more tariffs that could go down. We're given to understand by the 10th year of the deal, those tariffs could be down to at least 10%, or that's what initial negotiations have suggested. There are tariffs on automotives as well. Those could go from over 100% to 10% under a certain quota. We're talking about Aston Martins, we're talking about Bentleys and Rolls Royces. They're likely to benefit from this particular free trade agreement, which means if you are looking to buy these luxury cars in India, then perhaps they would be cheaper a few months from now. Tata's Jaguar Land Rover may see retail prices slashed as well. That's one of the things that could be in the benefit of Indian consumers. Two-wheeler makers, TVS Motors is also expected to benefit from this particular agreement. As far as food products are concerned, the United Kingdom food products will see certain tariff reductions, which means some of them could be cheaper here in India once that free trade agreement is signed by the two leaders tomorrow and comes into effect. But that's not the only highlight of the Prime Minister's visit. There are several other things that the Prime Minister is going to be focusing on while he sits down with Keir Starmer during that bilateral. One of them is of the extradition of economic fugitives that are currently finding refuge in the United Kingdom. One such economic fugitive that India wants to bring back and make him face the law here is businessman Nirav Modi. He's accused of a fraud worth 13,000 crore rupees, I beg your pardon. As far as his legal fight in the United Kingdom is concerned, there are several appeals that were granted to him by the UK courts, but all of them have been exhausted. He's been denied bail by UK courts repeatedly. His extradition has been approved on paper, but technically it is on hold due to a confidential impediment. What that confidential impediment is, that's something perhaps the two Prime Ministers will speak about. Another economic offender, fugitive Vijay Mallya, is somebody that India is after. He is accused of defaulting on loans worth 9,000 crore rupees. He's too made several appeals in courts across the United Kingdom. His final appeal was lost back in 2020. But 5 years later, we are yet to see him back here. His extradition too has been approved but has been delayed due to a judicial issue. Can that be smoothed over by the two leaders between the next 2 days while they sit down, while the extended team that is traveling with the Prime Minister sits down with their respective counterparts and gets this done? That's something that we will have to see. But former Indian diplomat Ashok Sajanhar is with us on this broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us once again. And this time we're discussing the Prime Minister's visit to the United Kingdom. The FTA, of course, is being minutely looked at. But I want to talk about the two other issues that India is going to be focusing on. And one of them is about Khalistani extremism. We've seen several instances in and around London as well that are completely concerning to India. That's something that the Prime Minister could raise. Could we expect any action come to the fore from the United Kingdom side during this visit of the Prime Minister?
Yes, thank you very much. I would sincerely hope so, because I think ever since this Labour government led by Mr. Keir Starmer has come last year, I think all the comments that have been coming, all the noises and the commentary that we are receiving, they seem to be cognizant and conscious about India's concerns. Very different to what the Labour used to, under Jeremy Corbyn, used to think earlier. In fact, Jeremy Corbyn has been expelled from the Labour Party now. So I am reasonably hopeful that we should be able to get a positive response from the UK government. I think we have brought it very clearly to them that it is a matter that adversely impacts on the law and order situation and the social cohesion in that country also. And I would think, like in the case in Canada also, that they would take cognizance and they would take measures, suitable measures, to curb this menace.
Now, as far as economic offenders, other fugitives are concerned, India has been seeking extradition for a long time. For a lot of them who reside in the United Kingdom, their multiple appeals have been exhausted. But unfortunately, the bureaucracy, the red tape, if you call it will, that's somehow still ensuring that they stay there in the United Kingdom, enjoy life as they go by. And India is still fighting for their extradition. Is that something that India can convince UK to fast track now?
Yeah, I think India has been doing this, and hopefully, we are reaching the very end of, their whole process, the appeal process and all the others. And as you mentioned, as far as Nirav Modi is concerned, there is some confidential input that needs to be dealt with. So maybe that the two prime ministers can look at. What I'm also told is at times, like what happened in the case of Kim Davies, that the condition of the prisons in India and the facilities, that they are at times thought not to be up to the mark. So there are some commitments that need to be given in that regard. So maybe those are some issues, but I think we really need to focus on those issues and get them out of the way and get these fugitives to get back to India and face justice here in this land.
We really do hope that there is some outcome as far as the meeting between the two prime ministers is concerned on those issues. But Ashok Sajjanhar, thank you so much for speaking with us. Moving on now to what's transpiring here back home, and that's the full-blown political war that we are seeing inside the parliament. There are several issues that the opposition has been raising, but one particular issue that they have been at loggerheads with the government is on Operation Sindoor, demanding the Prime Minister's statement on it. We're now given to understand that next week in both houses of parliament, there is going to be a debate that's held on Operation Sindoor. 16 hours have been allocated for both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The decision comes after strong demands from the opposition, but the government too, remember, had assured that they will be holding this particular briefing for all members of parliament. Despite that, Rahul Gandhi continues to target the Prime Minister, target the Modi government over claims coming in from US President Donald Trump of brokering the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Sources indicate that Prime Minister Modi is likely to intervene during this debate in both houses of parliament. Will he respond to these allegations coming in from the Congress party? That, of course, we'll have to wait and watch out for.
जो हम डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं, डिफेंस के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं। हालात अच्छी नहीं है, पूरा देश जानता है। जो अपने आप को देशभक्त कहते हैं वो भग गए, राइट? प्राइम मिनिस्टर एक स्टेटमेंट नहीं दे पा रहे हैं। ट्रंप ने कितनी बार बोला है? 25 बार बोला है। ट्रंप ने 25 बार बोला है कि मैंने सीज फायर करवाया। ट्रंप कौन होता है सीज फायर कराने का? उसका काम थोड़ी है। मगर प्रधानमंत्री ने एक बार जवाब नहीं दिया। सच्चाई है, छुप नहीं सकते।
जानबूझ करके डेडलॉक बनाया जा रहा है। जब पहले दिन उन्होंने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर और पहलगाम पे सदन को बाधित किया, हंगामा किया, संसदीय कार्य मंत्री किरण रिजिजू जी ने कहा आज बिजनेस एडवाइजरी कमेटी की मीटिंग है स्पीकर साहब के साथ, 16 घंटे उस पर समय तय हो गया। अब स्पीकर साहब जिस दिन करेंगे चर्चा होगी। अगर इसके बाद और विषयों पे चाहते हैं तो कल भी मैं चेयर पे था, संसदीय कार्य मंत्री जी ने कहा, अर्जुन राम मेघवाल जी ने, स्पीकर साहब कह रहे हैं कि आप कोई विषय लाइए। ये सदन के बेल में राहुल गांधी के सामने लोग डिस्प्ले कर रहे हैं प्ले कार्ड्स को, ये सदन के ऊपर लोकतंत्र पे कुठाराघात है, अमर्यादित आचरण है। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये आरोप कि हमें बोलने नहीं दिया जा रहा है राहुल गांधी का, ये गलत है। राहुल गांधी सदन को चलने नहीं दे रहे हैं।
Pallavi now joins us, getting us more perspective on this. Pallavi, as far as the Congress is concerned, they continue to ask questions of the Modi government on what US President Donald Trump has been claiming of how the United States and he personally brokered peace between India and Pakistan. Is that something that they are going to focus on when they do their when they do participate in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha next week during the debate?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, Rahul Gandhi as the LOP is also going to intervene in that discussion, and he's also going to be raising this point. So there's a two-point strategy which all the opposition parties have agreed upon while the discussion begins on Monday and on Tuesday. One is, how true is the claim of Donald Trump that he was the one who brokered the ceasefire between India and Pakistan? Despite the fact, Poonam, that the CDS and army have repeatedly made it clear that this ceasefire was not brokered by any third party. Our foreign policy is our own. No one is buying it from the Congress party. And we just heard Rahul Gandhi say pretty much the same thing. That's going to be one line of attack. The second line of attack is going to be more than 2 months. Why is it that the terrorists involved in the Pahalgam terror attack have not yet been caught? Where are they? Why are they missing? And isn't this a question of failed intelligence and a failed anti-terror policy of the government? So while the Prime Minister is going to be sitting there, he's going to be speaking, the opposition parties really want to corner him on what is considered to be an otherwise strong wicket of the BJP.
Pallavi, do stay on with us, because speaking of US President Donald Trump, in fact, just today, he once again spoke about brokering the ceasefire and ending a war between India and Pakistan. Listen to what he had to say. This is exactly what has been arming the Congress leaders.
Today, Japan and the Philippines. We just did the Philippines today also. A good deal. We have stopped wars between India and Pakistan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. That was going on for 30 years. And by the way, India-Pakistan was probably going to end up in a nuclear war if they kept, they shut down 5 planes in the last attack. And it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I called them and I said, listen, no more trade. If you do this, you're not going to be good. But they're both powerful nuclear nations. And that would have happened. And who knows where that would have ended up. And I stopped it.
Pallavi, now the Indian government has time and again rejected these allegations, these claims that have been made by US President Donald Trump. But of course, that's not enough to convince the Congress or many others within the opposition. But speaking of the discussion itself, do we have any inkling of who the speakers are going to be, who is going to be opening up that discussion from the opposition side?
Well, as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned, we can say for sure it is expected to be the LOP, which is Rahul Gandhi. Apart from that, we are also told Gaurav Gogoi will be one of the speakers, and every political party will be given the number of speakers based on the strength of the party inside the House. So the Congress will have 3 to 4 speakers. Manish Tiwari, I'm told, is also another one who may be speaking, considering that he was a part of the delegation as well. As far as the other political parties are concerned, in TMC, Kalyan Banerjee, Shaugato Roy are also supposed to be the ones who are expected to speak. Leaders of the political parties like Akhilesh Yadav are the ones who are expected to speak in Lok Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, it is of course going to be the BJP Bengal president, strategically chosen to be one of the initiators of the debate. As Payal pointed out, Derek O'Brien of the Trinamool Congress is expected to be another speaker. Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge is also expected to be another speaker. But all eyes on to see that, considering it is Operation Sindoor, will Shashi Tharoor also be fielded by the Congress party, considering the kind of infighting between the two of them, as one of the prime speakers from the Congress side?
Right, Pallavi, it'll be interesting to see the kind of exchanges that we see in both houses of Parliament, in Lok Sabha and in Rajya Sabha next week. Monday is when the discussion begins in the lower house, and Tuesday when we see that in the House of Elders or the Rajya Sabha. Do stay on with us. Let's listen into some more reactions.
बार-बार बोल रहा है, ये क्यों निरुत्तर है, हमको समझ में नहीं आ रहा। तो अभी भी आप ट्रंप की गुलामी करना चाहते हैं। देश बड़ा है, इम्पोर्टेंट है, इसीलिए तो हमने देश की एकता के लिए सब लोग मिलके सरकार को सपोर्ट किया। अगर हमारे को बार-बार ट्रंप ये कह के अपमान करता है कि समझौता मैंने कराया, तो उसका उत्तर उन्हें देना चाहिए और वो भी डट कर बोलना चाहिए। हम खुद ने कर लिया या मैं खुद करा, तो कहीं ना कहीं वीकनेस है।
विपक्ष यदि सदन चलने दे, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर की प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में जो फोर्सेस ने कामयाबी हासिल की है उस पर चर्चा होगी तो उनके पेट में दर्द होगा।
We'll keep a track of the fireworks there in the Parliament. But for now, a quick pause on this edition of Nation at 5. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
16-hour debate on Operation Sindoor has been scheduled for next week in the Parliament. This was announced by the Business Advisory Committee after strong demands from the opposition. But Rahul Gandhi continues to question Prime Minister Modi on his silence, particularly on the mediation that has been claimed as coming from America, as has been made in several claims by the President of the United States.
बहुत बड़े प्रॉब्लम्स हैं जो हम डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं। डिफेंस के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं। हालात अच्छी नहीं है, पूरा देश जानता है। जो अपने आप को देशभक्त कहते हैं वो भग गए, राइट? प्राइम मिनिस्टर एक स्टेटमेंट नहीं दे पा रहे हैं। ट्रंप ने कितनी बार बोला है? 25 बार बोला है। ट्रंप ने 25 बार बोला है कि मैंने सीज फायर करवाया। ट्रंप कौन होता है सीज फायर कराने का? उसका काम थोड़ी है। मगर प्रधानमंत्री ने एक बार जवाब नहीं दिया। सच्चाई है, छुप नहीं सकते।
Take this across to my colleague Pallavi. Pallavi, finally a 16-hour discussion that has been announced. This is what is coming out of the BAC. But Rahul Gandhi is steadfast in crying foul. This time he's going after the Prime Minister. He is also talking about the several announcements that have come in on part of US President Donald Trump on having made that attempt to mediate between India and Pakistan. Which way do you see this headed, Pallavi?
So during the Operation Sindoor discussion, first in Rajya Sabha on Tuesday for 16 hours and most likely before that in Lok Sabha for around 16 hours itself, I think the focus of the opposition parties will be one. Why is it that constantly the American president keeps on staking claim as far as brokering a ceasefire is concerned, and we want the Prime Minister to respond to it. So far, no clarity coming in from the government whether the Prime Minister will be able to be present there or whether he is actually going to be responding. So that is one point over here. The second point that they are raising is that where are the terrorists? Where are they missing? Why have they not yet been nabbed? This is going to be the frontal attack coming in from the opposition towards the government. The government, of course, has said that it's an ongoing operation. There's a sensitivity matter involved. And it's not the first time really here. Every time the government has made it clear that there is no question of the ceasefire being brokered by America. This is something which Pakistan wanted. We gave it to them. In fact, the DGMO called up pre-lunch. We could not take that call. We spoke to them post-lunch, and that is why we conceded to the demands, but they are on a wait and watch. Both the sides clearly will not accept each other's debate, but finally, next week is when you're going to see the discussion take place on post-Operation Sindoor developments.
The fact that it has been decided that this debate is going to happen, it is going to continue through these several hours. By that time, I believe the Prime Minister is also going to get back. Would we see...
Thank you so much for staying with us. We have now news coming in, and this is in the wake of the resignation of Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar. Now, what we're learning is that as per the former Vice President, Jagdeep Dhankhar used to behave very rudely with cabinet ministers of the government, is what we're given to understand. This is what we've gathered from our sources within the government. There are claims that are being made of humiliation to some of these ministers, including senior cabinet ministers as well, during the interaction that the Vice President had with the cabinet members. There is a particular instance that is being spoken of, which is before the visit of the US Vice President J.D. Vance. Jagdeep Dhankhar remarked, and I quote here, that I am also a vice president and his counterpart, so I will hold the most important meeting with him. After this, a senior cabinet minister had to call him and explain to him that J.D. Vance was bringing a message from the United States, which is why the Prime Minister would be holding that particular meeting and hosting the US Vice President. Lens is now on the conduct of the former Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar. This also comes at a time when several questions are being raised from opposition quarters, whether his resignation was really due to ill health or were there more reasons behind it. At such a time, we are gathering more information that is coming to the fore from sources within the government of what exactly transpired. What we're also learning is that Jagdeep Dhankhar would also insist on having his own portrait placed alongside the portrait of the Prime Minister in several offices. Typically, when Prime Minister Modi, the President's portraits are placed in minister's office, that's something that allegedly irked former Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar, which is why he had repeatedly pressured for his portraits to be put there as well. We're given to understand that he also wanted his official fleet vehicles to be replaced with high-end Mercedes cars. That's another flashpoint that was brewing between the former Vice President and the government, which is why there was a nudge that seems to have come Dhankhar's way, which is why he resigned in that shock exit that we saw on Monday. Remember, at 9:25 p.m., a social media post was put out on the official social media handle of the Vice President's office with the resignation letter of Jagdeep Dhankhar. Several questions were raised on why he had resigned on the first day of the monsoon session after a full day of having presided over Parliament proceedings. The inside story of what exactly has been transpiring over the last few months is something that we've accessed here on CNN News 18, getting you more details of why exactly Jagdeep Dhankhar saw it prudent for him to vacate his position. Payal, my colleague, will be joining us shortly, getting us more details of what exactly she's gathered from her sources within the government. But the opposition, remember, has been raising questions of the timing and the reason behind Jagdeep Dhankhar's resignation. Many had questioned the theory or the reason that Jagdeep Dhankhar had cited in his resignation letter, that it was owing to ill health that he was stepping aside. Now we're learning that maybe there is definitely more than meets the eye, and there was a conflict brewing between the government of the day, the Modi government, and the Vice President's office, which is why it seems like the former Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar decided that it was time and it was prudent for him to step aside. Payal now joins us, getting us more details. Payal, we are getting this information that you've gathered from your sources as to what exactly was transpiring. We're given to understand that there were several trigger points as far as the conduct of Jagdeep Dhankhar was concerned, with several members of the cabinet, with several government officials as well.
Oh, well, absolutely. Mr. Dhankhar, when he began, that tirade against the government 6 months ago, had publicly humiliated Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the agriculture minister, and later went on to, call him the Latka Bhai of the farmers. That was one trigger that had happened about 6 to 8 months ago. But we are given to understand within the next 6 months or so, he has in fact publicly humiliated a lot of ministers, even during the proceedings of the House, in particular, senior ministers in the government, and extremely, insulted the way in which he spoke to them, both on the record as well as, in their off-record meetings as well. We are also given to understand by way of sources that, there was always a lot of pressure that was piled on the union ministers to in fact get work done in a certain manner and at a certain speed. In fact, he has been for the longest, the outgoing vice president had in fact been very, very critical of the government's approach, saying that he was not being given the right treatment. He wanted the entire fleet of cars to be changed, etc. For that matter, Poonam. Whenever a fleet of cars for a VIP dignitary like this are changed, there is a big protocol which has to be followed in terms of detailing of what is wrong in each car. So obviously the government of the day agreed to give him that leeway and allow him to change a few cars, but he insisted on getting his entire fleet changed. He also insisted that, ministers, there is a protocol by which the ministers in fact place the picture of Narendra Modi and of course Draupadi Murmu, the Rashtrapati, on their wall. We insisted ministers should also place his portrait, because he was constitutional authority, he was above the Prime Minister when it came to the constitutional authority. So several things that the union government and of course the ministers concerned had put up with for the last many months. We know that the immediate trigger would have been what we've been speaking about, but the person you are speaking with has...
We'll try and reconnect that line with my colleague Payal there, who's getting us those details. But Congress's Manikam Tagore is with us on this broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us. You're on CNN News 18. What we're now learning is that there was something brewing between the former Vice President and the government of the day. It seems like he decided it was prudent for him to step aside because it had come to a head as far as certain issues went, and his conduct was under question.
This is the greatest joke of the 21st century. The same government was praising him as Kisan Putra, and they were saying that he was he's the son of the farmer, and he has a legal background, all these kind of things. And they were now, when they are gone, when something is wrong with him, now the mudslinging has started, and to defame him. The BJP is, particularly the BJP's top leadership, is spreading these kind of fake stories on the former Vice President, which is very unfortunate that we are speaking about a constitutional post. India's Vice President is a position where people with lot of experience, lot of credibility had occupied that position, and whomever it has been, there has been issues with the Prime Ministers in the earlier time also. But this cannot be like this, that you give an off-the-record story. He is not the president of the Vice President of the BJP party. He is the Vice President of India. This is the problem with the BJP, particularly the Prime Minister and Mr. Amit Shah, that they start this kind of rumor mongering about the people who are occupying the constitutional position. It is very unfortunate that they are starting this campaign to defame Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar, because he is not speaking the truth to the media. Because of that only they are doing this kind of thing, which is unacceptable. When he has resigned and when Prime Minister has given this kind of tweet, they should have left it like that. Why they are indulging in this kind of mudslinging about a farmer leader who is from Rajasthan? They are insulting Rajasthan, they are insulting the farmers.
But Mr. Tagore, sorry to interrupt you there, but Mr. Tagore, the kind of questions that the opposition, including the Congress, had also raised about his reason citing ill health, even the Congress had questioned that there was maybe more than meets the eye. So if there is more information trickling in about what really was the issue between the former Vice President and the government, why not welcome it?
This is the other side also, we have to hear it. No, this is the story of Mr. Amit Shah's and the Prime Minister's stories, which is to spread fake news about the Vice President of India. We should hear from Vice President of India, who is former Vice President of India now. He should speak, and he should tell, like Satyapal Mahalik gave a story, and News 18 also should speak to Jagdeep Dhankhar in the next few days, and you should get his views also. Then only truth will be there, or else it will be one-sided story of the government only.
Mr. Tagore, I just want to ask you one more question before I let you go. You know, the BJP is also accusing the Congress of double-speak in this, that when Jagdeep Dhankhar was at that position of the Vice President, there were several aspersions that were cast on his integrity by the Congress party and the opposition as a whole. And now that he's resigned, he seems to be a saint to you. Isn't that hypocrisy, asked the BJP? How do you respond to that?
We have to understand it. As the chair, when he was chairman in the Rajya Sabha, his conduct was not as to be the neutral position. Therefore, we had problems with him. We had raised that in the floor of the House and in the meetings in the BACs also. Congress, the opposition has been very clear in this thing that whomever occupies the position of the chair should be neutral. And that only we had been asking. If somebody else leaves that neutrality, then we will question that person. That has been the case for us. It is not hypocrisy. What BJP is doing is the hypocritic thing. They only called, the same Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, only called him that the Kisan Putra. Now what happened to that Kisan Putra now? The Kisan Putra is asking for Mercedes Benz now. What kind of stories they are planting? It is unbecoming to hear these kind of things on the Vice President of India, and this will demean the positions of the Vice President of India. It will make people lose faith in the Vice President of India itself.
Manigam Tagore, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. The political war of words is only escalating 2 days after the shock exit of Jagdeep Dhankhar as the Vice President. My colleague Payal has been getting us all the inside buzz of what exactly transpired. Speaking of the day of the resignation itself, Payal, that's also is in focus because that was day one of the monsoon session of Parliament. Jagdeep Dhankhar had presided over several sessions of the Rajya Sabha. He had several meetings outside of those Rajya Sabha proceedings as well. But something went awry as far as his visit to the Rashtrapati Bhavan is concerned. That's something that you've got information on as well?
We're given to understand that, that evening he went unannounced to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He had to wait for about 25 minutes to meet the Honorable Rashtrapati, who was caught by surprise herself because she was not expecting him coming there as well. But he did go there and he tendered his resignation. We're given to understand that, even the government of the day was taken by surprise till they got the communication, obviously from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, that he had tendered his resignation. Obviously the government of the day was waiting for further details to really come out as well. Again, the government of the day has no role in this because it was an individual choice that he really made to go to the Rashtrapati Bhavan to tender his resignation, citing his health issues. And the Prime Minister also, when he tweeted, Poonam points out that, he's been given an opportunity to serve the country, which he has, and the Prime Minister wished him good health. But, one of the trigger points that everybody's spoken about, and we've spoken to multiple people, both within the government as well as the opposition, is that there was this constant anger in his mind that he was not allowed to meet J.D. Vance, who he thought was his counterpart. Much to the fact that several ministers in the government had explained to him that J.D. Vance, of course, was the Vice President of the US, but he had brought Donald Trump's message for the Prime Minister, and of course that had to be communicated with the Prime Minister as well. So there have been several such occasions on which, multiple ministers felt that, probably there were things that they tried to communicate with him, and it is no open secret now, and that Mrs. Dhankhar often spoke about the government in a certain fashion.
Right. Payal, catch your breath. We'll come back to you for more details on that. But senior journalist R. Raj Gopalan also joining us on this broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. How do you see this kind of information that is now trickling in of the kind of flashpoints that were already brewing between the former Vice President and the government of the day, which eventually then came to a head 2 days ago?
Very, very sad commentary, Poonam. What I have been listening from my sources also, same thing what Payal Mehta just now broke it. And moreover, it is unbecoming of the Vice President to compare himself with the foreign dignitaries like that. Apart from that, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar should know his limitations. And moreover, whatever the news coming out now, even in the morning newspapers, what Poonam also said, Payal also said, a vice president should not knock at the doors of the president at the late evening, saying that he wants to give a resignation letter. That's a very bad in taste. Second thing, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar was man in a hurry, and government gave him long rope. Government also gave him some sort of lesson. There are indications to me. Yesterday in the Rahul Shiva show, I also mentioned that 3 former Chief Justices met the President and the Prime Minister to complain against the Vice President for his, extrajudicial activism on criticizing the judiciary, like FIR on the judges, etc. And the government had to clarify to the Chief Justices, former Chief, that it was not the government's view, it is only view of Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar's personal view. Therefore, indications are there. For the last 6 months, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar was going out of his way. After the opposition parties created a atmosphere of impeachment. So that is why Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar thought he was being misled like that. Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar cannot compare himself with Donald Trump. And he's tweeting the letter, original letter, written to President by the Vice President, is also a wrong in taste, very bad in taste, because it's an official communication between 2 dignitaries, 2 constitutional authorities, or kept a secret, and he cannot make it public. That is why my understanding is Jagdeep Dhankhar, when his frustration against the government, that is why he did not have the courtesy to call on the Prime Minister before he submitted the resignation letter to the President. If he was a gentleman, he should have gone to the Prime Minister first and then to the President later. That type of steps he should have taken. Jagdeep Dhankhar, what he did was absolutely wrong. It is in bad state. and Jagdeep Dhankhar will also be exposed very soon because he is a very maverick person. How did he manage with mercurial man like Mamata Banerjee? Now we are seeing that Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar himself is a mercurial person.
Sure. So we'll see what happens next here. But Arraj Gopalan, thank you so much for speaking with us and sharing your perspective. The fallout of Jagdeep Dhankhar's resignation as the Vice President is far from over, and we'll keep a track of that here on CNN News 18. But for now, it's time for a quick break.
Brought to you by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
16-hour debate on Operation Sindoor has been scheduled for next week in the Parliament. This was announced by the Business Advisory Committee after strong demands from the opposition. But Rahul Gandhi continues to question Prime Minister Modi on his silence, particularly on the mediation that has been claimed as coming from America, as has been made in several claims by the President of the United States.
बहुत बड़े प्रॉब्लम्स हैं जो हम डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं. डिफेंस के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं. हालात अच्छी नहीं है, पूरा देश जानता है. जो अपने आप को देशभक्त कहते हैं वो भग गए. राइट? प्राइम मिनिस्टर एक स्टेटमेंट नहीं दे पा रहे हैं. ट्रंप ने कितनी बार बोला है? 25 बार बोला है. ट्रंप ने 25 बार बोला है कि मैंने सीज फायर करवाया. ट्रंप कौन होता है सीज फायर कराने का? उसका काम थोड़ी है. मगर प्रधानमंत्री ने एक बार जवाब नहीं दिया. सच्चाई है, छुप नहीं सकते.
Take this across to my colleague Pallavi. Pallavi, finally a 16-hour discussion that has been announced. This is what is coming out of the BAC. But Rahul Gandhi is steadfast in crying foul. This time he's going after the Prime Minister. He is also talking about the several announcements that have come in on part of US President Donald Trump on having made that attempt to mediate between India and Pakistan. Which way do you see this headed, Pallavi?
So during the Operation Sindoor discussion, first in Rajya Sabha on Tuesday for 16 hours and most likely before that in Lok Sabha for around 16 hours itself, I think the focus of the opposition parties will be one. Why is it that constantly the American president keeps on staking claim as far as brokering a ceasefire is concerned, and we want the Prime Minister to respond to it. So far, no clarity coming in from the government whether the Prime Minister will be able to be present there or whether he is actually going to be responding. So that is one point over here. The second point that they are raising is that where are the terrorists? Where are they missing? Why have they not yet been nabbed? This is going to be the frontal attack coming in from the opposition towards the government. The government, of course, has said that it's an ongoing operation. There's a sensitivity matter involved. And it's not the first time really here. Every time the government has made it clear that there is no question of the ceasefire being brokered by America. This is something which Pakistan wanted. We gave it to them. In fact, the DGMO called up pre-lunch. We could not take that call. We spoke to them post-lunch, and that is why we conceded to the demands, but they are on a wait and watch. Both the sides clearly will not accept each other's debate, but finally, next week is when you're going to see the discussion take place on post-Operation Sindoor developments.
The fact that it has been decided that this debate is going to happen, it is going to continue through these several hours. By that time, I believe the Prime Minister is also going to get back. Would we see and can we expect the Prime Minister to speak on the floor of the House? And that question, I'd like to take this to Arunima, who's also with us on the broadcast. Arunima, if you could have heard that question.
So as far as the Prime Minister, I beg your pardon, Prime Minister responding to opposition is concerned, that is one demand from the Congress party on which they have been unflinching. So far, the indications of the government is that Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh is going to respond to the debate on Operation Sindoor. That is what, we got an indication when he actually stood up in Lok Sabha also on day one of the monsoon session, and also made that point that I am willing, all government is willing to look at all your demands and discuss everything, let the House function. Prime Minister coming and answering the Congress is demanding, because they say this is the precedent. When 1962 war happened, it was Jawaharlal Nehru who took the House into confidence. Indira Gandhi did the same after 1971 when Bangladesh was created. And Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a Prime Minister who belonged to Bharatiya Janata Party, he too spoke up when Kargil happened. So why should there be a departure?
Welcome back. The debate over Bihar's special intensive revision of electoral rolls continues. The Election Commission has defended its process after protests erupted both in the Bihar Assembly and here in the Parliament. Opposition MLAs clashed with marshals accusing the poll panel of overreach. The BJP, meanwhile, condemned these protests, calling it hooliganism. The EC has put out certain stats to confirm that at least 52 lakh names were removed from these electoral rolls. They claim that 18 lakh of those 52 were deceased voters, 26 had moved constituencies, and 7 lakh voters were double registrations, which means at least 7 lakh people, 7 lakh eligible voters in Bihar were also holding voter ID cards of another state. The Commission said that efforts are going on to ensure that all eligible voters are included, but the opposition is not convinced.
52 लाख की बात नहीं है, सिर्फ बिहार की बात नहीं है। महाराष्ट्र में इन्होंने चीटिंग की। हमने सवाल पूछे इलेक्शन कमीशन से, वोटर लिस्ट दिखाइए। इन्होंने वोटर लिस्ट नहीं दिखाई। हमने कहा कि वीडियोग्राफी दिखा दीजिए, वीडियोग्राफी का कानून बदल दिया। कर्नाटक में हमने भयंकर चोरी पकड़ी है। मैं ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट में आपको दिखाऊंगा, इलेक्शन कमीशन को दिखाऊंगा, ठीक है, ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट में कि कैसे चोरी की जाती है, कहाँ की जाती है। हमने पूरी की पूरी वोटर लिस्ट ली, उसको डिजिटल फॉर्मेट किया। 6 महीने लगे हमने, मगर हमने सारा का सारा मतलब इनका सिस्टम निकाल दिया। और अब इन्होंने क्या किया है कि अब हम बिहार का पूरा सिस्टम नए तरीके से करेंगे, वोटर डिलीट करेंगे और नए तरीके से वोटर लिस्ट लाएंगे। हिंदुस्तान में इलेक्शन चोरी किए जा रहे हैं।
2 ही दिन और 3 ही दिन है, इसके बाद तो चुनाव होने वाला है। तो चुनाव होगा तो पूरे देश के लोग सोचेंगे कि क्या करना है, और हम लोगों ने कितना काम शुरू से किया है, क्या था ये बजट, और कितना ज्यादा हम लोगों ने सबके लिए किया है। आज 3 लाख से भी ज्यादा, और केंद्र सरकार ने भी, सुनिए, केंद्र सरकार ने भी काफी मदद कर रही है, और मिलकर के बिहार में जो चीज की कोई कमी थी हम लोग चारों तरफ घूम करके देखे हैं, और जहां कोई कमी थी उसको भी कर दिया। तो अब मामला है कि चुनाव लड़ना है, तो भाई चुनाव लड़िए, और चुनाव लड़ने में अंड बंड जितना बोलना है बोलते रहिए। लेकिन आप एक बात हम कहते हैं, अरे 2-3 गो महिला है, अभी बताओ कि पहले कोई महिला को कुछ दिया था? आप लोग मुस्लिम के लिए क्या किए? कुछ नहीं किए, और उनके लिए भी सारा काम हम लोगों ने कर दिया।
In fact, sources from the government are now telling us that as far as the Election Commission's SIR exercise is concerned, the government is not involved, but they are ready to discuss all issues. The Election Commission is an autonomous body is a reaffirmation that has come to the fore from the government side as far as questions that are being raised by the opposition are concerned. Payal now joins us, getting us more details on this. Payal, what more can you tell us?
Well, the Election Commission doesn't respond to the government, and therefore the government on behalf of Election Commission cannot really respond to other questions that the opposition parties want to ask and the discussion that they really want. That's the clarification coming in from the government that, they do understand that members in the opposition want to discuss the SIR issue, but the question that is being asked is who will be speaking on behalf of the Election Commission, because the Election Commission is not an elected member of Parliament, and therefore they cannot be asked to come into the House and decide. if this matter is taken up in a standing committee, for example, you can always have the election commission representatives come and respond. So that seems to be the other way that the government wants. If the opposition leaders want a discussion on this matter, they should approach a standing committee for the same.
Right, Payal, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Shifting focus now to news from the world of entertainment. Ozzy Osbourne, the legendary Prince of Darkness of heavy metal, has passed away at the age of 76. Best known as the iconic frontman of Black Sabbath, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's back in 2019. Here's a look at the journey of the man who redefined rock music.
Ozzy Osbourne, heavy metal's Prince of Darkness. The inimitable voice behind Black Sabbath and one of rock music's most electrifying figures has died at the age of 76. A towering presence in the world of heavy metal, Osbourne passed away peacefully, according to his family. Though he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2019, the exact cause of death has not been disclosed. His death comes just weeks after a poignant final curtain call. A farewell performance with Black Sabbath on July 5 in Birmingham, the very city where the band was born. Seated on a black throne, Osbourne bid goodbye to fans with a show that now feels achingly symbolic. The last howl of a legend who helped define an entire genre. Born John Michael Osbourne on December 3, 1948 in Aston, Birmingham, his early life was marked by hardship. He struggled with dyslexia, endured abuse, and dropped out of school at 15, drifting into petty crime and eventually serving time for burglary. A chapter he would later recount with his trademark grim humor. Music offered salvation. That turning point came in late 1960s, when he joined forces with guitarist Tony Iommi, bassist Geezer Butler, and drummer Bill Ward to form Black Sabbath, a band that would go on to forge the sound and soul of heavy metal. Their 1970 debut album Black Sabbath, followed by the landmark Paranoid, delivered genre-defining tracks like Iron Man, War Pigs, and Paranoid. The kind of music that influenced generations of musicians to come. After parting ways with the band in 1979, Osbourne launched a wildly successful solo career that produced iconic tracks like Crazy Train, Mr. Crowley, and Mama I'm Coming Home. His new chapter was marked by both creative reinvention and personal tumult, struggles with addiction, public controversies, and near-death experiences. But he remained a magnetic force, channeling chaos into music that never lost its edge. In the 1990s, Osbourne created Ozzfest, further cementing his role as both godfather and gatekeeper of the genre. Then came an unlikely second act, The Osbournes, the hit MTV reality series that introduced a new generation to Ozzy. A rockstar dad trying to navigate domestic life, it became a pop culture sensation. Despite declining health in recent years, including multiple surgeries, a Parkinson's diagnosis, and cancelled tours, Osbourne's connection to his fans never waned. His legacy is carved in iron with all its beauty, brutality, and excess. Yes, the Prince of Darkness has left the stage, but the echo lingers on.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. With Bihar elections fast approaching, Election Commission seems to be leaving no stone unturned when it comes to the much debated special intensive revision exercise. Just yesterday, the electoral roll revision in Bihar weeded out 52 lakh ineligible voters. But the EC assures that all eligible electors are included in the draft roll to be published on August 1. The opposition is up in arms relentlessly. It claims the names have been deleted from rolls through fraudulent means.